Hello guys, SuperBearNeo here, and today I'm making a special video on a wikia that I actually like. Unlike Versus Battle Wiki, this wikia right here actually do have an affinity with, and I do like compared to Versus Battle Wiki. For many reasons, DebatesJungle is, while relatively new, it still is very creative, and not only that, but it recognizes that there's some flaws that Versus Battle Wiki has that should just be left off when making the power scaling wikia. So as such, when I make this video, I'd like to clarify that I'm not going to be harsh on this wikia compared to Versus Battle Wiki because, for one, it's not as huge as Versus Battle Wiki, but two, also because I like it. And also, the hidden 3 factor is, my friend of mine works on this wikia, and also, like, he made it, so I'm not going to be too harsh on it because, well, it's actually pretty good. However, there are some issues, and I'm going to first go over some of the minor issues that I have. I'm gonna go over the major ones. The major issues just only stem from 2 individuals, really, but I'm gonna get into that later because I kind of want to go over some of the minor things. Now, some of the more minor issues that I have with DebatesJungle specifically is the oversaturation of abilities. Now, what I mean by oversaturation of abilities is, for example, like, it's good to have, like, a lot of abilities and stuff, like, for all these different characters and all that stuff, but then there's the thing that, like, alright, there's, like, all these abilities, but, like, a lot of them are just pointless or just shouldn't exist. Like, for example, hold on a second, let me give an example. Alright, this is not an example, but I'm kind of just going through just to, get to, hold on a second. I'm kind of going through real quick to get this to a link. There we go. So, some abilities just shouldn't be a thing, and that's just a minor issue, because really it doesn't affect the wikia too much, but it kind of would help. Like, for example, Eldritch Physiology, in actuality, like, what kind of applicability to combat does this really have? I mean, yeah, I get it, that they can't be perceived by, like, lower dimensional beings or something like that, but really, that doesn't have to be its own subset of an ability within itself. You could, like, basically just, you know, make that something else instead of just making an entire ability. Another a pointless ability that I saw that really just shouldn't be on there. Hold on a second, I'll get back to it. There's, like, many examples I could go over when I talk about this, but there's, like, some specific ones I'm trying to find. Okay, there it is. Where is it at? Oh yeah, containment immunity. Here's another one that pretty much it is pretty much pointless as an ability, really. Only note that high 1A and tier 0s can only be given this ability or something like that, and you know, it's kind of a weird thing to give when you get just basically cast it as immunity or resistance to sealing. Really, it doesn't have to be its own ability within itself, and that's just scraping the surface when I'm talking about that specifically. But yeah, that's one minor issue. Another minor issue, this just mostly stems with an issue that I had before, such as concept types and stuff like that. Like, you guys already know how I feel about concept types. Like, for example, type 2 concepts, type 1 concepts, yada yada, etc, etc. You already know how I feel about that. I don't agree with applying that universally to Versus Battle Wiki. I mean, not Versus Battle Wiki, but to versus battles, because the thing is, the thing is, platonic concepts and Aristotle's not physiology, but his works isn't universally applicable to all works. So, like, it's only a handful of series even, like, abide by Platonic ideas or Aristotle's works and all that, like the Republic, for example. So kind of applying it universally would just be a bad mistake, and trying to, like, force it to apply just doesn't make any sense. Mind you, this isn't the DebatesJungle's fault, because technically Versus Battle Wiki was the one who started this whole thing to begin with. So yeah, those are like some of my minor issues with it. And now let's get into some of the more major issues, because mind you, I don't want to make this video too long. I want to make this just a short video. I don't plan to elaborate on this much because there really isn't much I can compared to Versus Battle Wiki, which has, you know, a multitude of issues within itself. But some issues that I have on DebatesJungle, one major one is within the threads. Like, for example, one issue that kind of was for reasons above. This has been an issue on Versus.wiki, but they recently cracked down on it. On some threads, the for reasons above can get pretty ridiculous, and it's just to the point where it's like borderline bandwagoning, really. And on my wikia, specifically Omni vs. Battlefield, it's kind of a requirement that you at least give some reason. Yeah, it's though, like when you have saturation like that, it's kind of not a good idea, and it's not good. And also, speaking of threads, there's also another issue with like people just like making outright wrong like claims on threads, but like the moment they're debunked, the reasoning is still considered valid, so it just gets taken in. And also, this is not too much of an issue of DebatesJungle also versus wiki, but it's more apparent here due to DebatesJungle being a little less, cracking down on stuff like that. And now I'm kind of am stalling a bit, if I'm being honest, because I already know what kind of who people are going to come after me when I say this and what kind of reaction I'm going to get. But I don't care, because I genuinely do care for this wiki, and I've been saying this for ages, ever since the event happened, and ever since I've told Leader that I do care about this wikia, and for a time worked on it too myself, because I actually did enjoy it. But the two elephants in the room, the two big issues that I have with DebatesJungle is specifically the two mods to basically ruins it for everyone, to the point where like I can get several accountants who worked on this wiki to testify that these two individuals are the sole reason why they just either won't get onto the wikia, left the wikia, or just not as active on the wikia. Two individuals who come to mind are and people who I know for myself, so I have an idea of how their nature is, so yeah. But the two individuals that spring to mind are Bendy / Dad Attack, also known as Giver of Peace. Oh, how convenient, he actually shows up. And Endless, who I, for the love of me, cannot find on this wikia, but I know for a fact he's a mod, because not only is he referenced by Bendy several times, but several of the people who worked on this wikia or mentions that he has a high authority. Now, those two individuals are the reason why I personally are just not active and left, honestly. Specifically, Bendy. Now, let me just be real. Bendy is a tyrant. He's a dictator. That's basically what he is, a dictator. A dictator given a form. He's almost as bad as Matthew Schroeder, how you say his name. I'm not even exaggerating. One person who I'm gonna not say, but he probably already knows who I'm talking about. And one person had like his entire pages deleted because they were quote unquote intentionally downplaying, in quotes by the way, even though whether it's downplay or wink, it doesn't matter, because well, if you believe that, then make a thread. Don't just delete pages just because you have mod power. That's not how a wiki works. You're supposed to make a thread for that type of stuff. And like basically one of my friends got his entire verse and stuff deleted because apparently it was intentionally downplaying and stuff. And really, in actuality, as my friend can point it out to you, it was mostly a biased move, because really, if it was just downplaying intentionally, then a good portion of the pages here would have been downplaying or wanking intentionally. A lot of pages here would have been deleted ages ago, so clearly it's just a subjective thing. Another thing that Bendy has done that just drives people away is his offsite aggression. Now, obviously, what he does offsite shouldn't be punished, but obviously, if you're going to be a high authority, you should be a good role model, or, you should just have good standards and all that stuff. But no, offsite, Bendy is a douchebag. Bendy, Dad Attack, whatever you want to call him, a douchebag. He intentionally encourages harassment against others, and this falls into my point with Endless. Endless is another person who I mentioned in my video when I was talking about people making false allegations and pushing them against me. That's not relevant to this video specifically, but Endless is a dick. He admits that he's a dick. He concedes that he's a quote-unquote professional asshole, which Bendy took the personality from. They're like interchangeable for one another in terms of how they act, really. Even though really Bendy is just a subset of Endless and basically his quote-unquote son, which saying that makes me cringe on an infinite level, Anyways, Bendy within himself encourages people like encourages bullying and all that stuff and harassment. And whenever he disagrees with someone or something like that, he'll send them to Endless. To Endless just harasses them and all that stuff. He does that for Cartoon Fight Club's Amino as well. And I'll maybe make a video on that too, because a friend of mine also used to do stuff on it, but he had like negative attention in it because of Bendy. But yeah, Bendy basically encourages bullying, and Endless is just basically a person who participates in that. And you know, these two people are like one of the reasons why I'm not going to be active on this wiki, and why many people are just scared away. And another friend of mine, who I won't say, got banned off this wiki because of some stupid stuff. He got banned and all that stuff. And mind you, guess who was behind it? Bendy. And you know, it was because of a personal dislike. It has nothing to do with any valid thing, because he did used to make some pages on it. And matter of fact, hold on a second, pretty sure his pages are still on here. Actually, let me look up something. Yeah, they're still on here, but the person himself got banned. And you know, it was a pretty stupid move to begin with. And you know what, like, I could bring up many points to submit Bendy and Endless being dictators, basically, and being the ones who just ruined the wiki completely. I could bring up countless examples of that and all that stuff. But you know what? I feel like you get the point. But, you know, just in case, I'm gonna bring up some more examples. Some people who I worked with and made videos with also, who made this video. I mean, not made this video, but, you know, worked on the wiki. Some people like that, they've also getting like some negative stuff off of this wiki just because of Bendy, and to an extent Endless also. I'm sure you could probably guess who they are based on the fact that I've worked with them before and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, Bendy doesn't govern a wiki just because of how it's efficient. He governs it based on his personal opinion and based on his personal outlooks. That's how he governs, and as a result, many people are just stemming away. The only people who you see active are just people who Bendy doesn't have an issue with, or either that, or someone who Bendy doesn't know too much about. If I guarantee you, if you have an issue with Bendy, then you'll probably either get banned, or he'll do something to blackball you, or get something basically just to make your experience worse. And mind you, he's the same person who drags on RS, someone who's an objective liar and also defamer. Also, he allows people like that on the wiki as well and all that stuff. Now, again, that's not relevant. That's not particularly relevant, but it should just be a sign of what type of person he is. Someone who makes allegations of rape just to intentionally defame someone. He does that and invites people to that wiki and all that stuff, especially when I'm present. Yeah, that's a tyrant. That's a tyrant, and you know what? Hey, if one of those two, or anybody anyone who fucks with them, has an issue with what I said right now, honestly, I really don't care. I quite frankly don't care. And you know what's funny? I'm probably gonna have a flood of people either harassing me in my DMs, or just Endless coming out of the shadows to just mention me, even though, you know, funny thing about it is I do not care about him whatsoever, and the only reason I even mention him here now is just because he has a significant role in what I'm talking about. Other than that, I don't care about both of these people. But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, someone has to speak up about it, and you know, yeah. So with that being said, that's pretty much all my issues with Debates Jungle, and you know, that's it. That's all, folks. SuperBearNeo, peace the fuck out like usual.